Alright guys, welcome back to the 76 Grind Cross video. The 6th anniversary is almost here. Within less than 24 hours now, we're going to be getting the reveal live stream going over the new character or characters because, well, we got to start with who the hell even is the new character. Don't think it's officially been leaked, although I think all of us right now are on the assumption it is Diane and King. With the anniversary after the success of Melly Ellie, we are definitely due a dual character, and with the first teaser we did get, it was heavily wedding themed. With then Brunhild coming out, or at least being leaked one day later. So a lot of us right now on the assumption that we're going to be getting like a wedding day Diane and King, which I don't think is actually going to be a thing now. I'm not too sure, but the teasers they've been doing have been very weird. Like, I don't know what to take from it actually. Like a classroom, it's a celebration, I think, at the end of the day, right? And even right now, a lot of the stuff is heavily evolved with King and also Diane. And even this as well with Diane and King in a wedding outfit, which, to be fair, is outfits already in the game. And of course, the official title for this anniversary is called the Garden Party. It's very obvious that, yes, we are going to be getting Diane and King, but whether they're going to be in a wedding outfit or not is kind of up in the air. They generally, at this point, can just do anything. It's a party. They're going to be in some sort of celebrational outfit. But at least from what I was thinking of, like, them being the ones from the movie, probably not likely the case because, well, that's probably a better thing actually because Diane, well, yes, she looks pretty cool in that wedding outfit. King doesn't change his outfit, so they got to make something else up for him. Also, as well, this was posted today where they have an artist coming in to sing probably likely the OST. They always like to do one OST during each, I guess, celebration anniversaries. And I'm pretty sure a lot of people point out it actually is Diane's voice actor. So that is, once again, adding more proof that is obviously Diane and King. And I think they actually showcased the song name, which apparently translates to Memory of the Sunflower. Sunflower, I am thinking, yeah, I told you that actually might be the ultimate. I never got around to making this video, but I want to do a quick breakdown about how the characters could play. It's going to be his own video, but I never got time to make it. But this is how I think they'll play. Once again, if we're basing it off the movie, because to be honest, Diane and King, at least Harlequin version, assuming it's going to be the big one, adult one, they don't fight much together, apart from the movie. So we're basing off the movie. Alright, so just like Melly Ellie, they're definitely going to have a talent, and talents, they can't really interact with the enemies too much, or in terms of actually doing damage. I'm sure at one point they're definitely going to do it, but I did see this clip from the movie, which would actually kind of work a little bit as like a full pure cleanse off the board. This is the Seed of Awakening, where they do cleanse debuffs, technically speaking, of the enemy, or at least allies, so it could be some sort of like a full board cleanse, or at least what I'd think right now, because it'd be pretty good in the meta, would absolutely dominate the unknown team of hell, even though I think the fairy team already does that, especially with the new cloud characters. Having a purify of debuffs, resetting the board on the enemy team where they remove all debuffs and buffs off the enemy, could be very powerful to not only counter like the full Emerson Shadow team, but also all the unknown buffs going on right now. They can kind of be like the new Rimuru of like the fairy clan, although it wouldn't happen every single turn. Doing it once might be enough to just remove an actual immortality, which would be very, very good. You would also have to do it during the start of the turn, so you won't be able to proc it, then cleanse. So they do have to have that immortality going in towards the next turn, but that's something you can work around with. Okay, so in this little clip here from the movie, you kind of have like a massive AoE strike from, I guess, the Supreme Deity, where Diane does kind of absorb the damage a little bit, while King protects the allies. So I think that could be a pretty good way of translating a skill we kind of already had in game, but a more buffed up version. And that is Tamiyo's stance. It kind of goes without saying, but Diane doing a stance skill is kind of an easy thing to do, right? But I kind of like the idea of you assuming a stance where you reduce the final damage taken from allies, and instead the character himself, like Diane, for example, like absorb all the damage from the enemy team. She then takes a damage delta, right? So obviously to make this in towards a festival level skill, and to also incorporate King in towards the ability, I think given the Pollen Garden, the shield buff, because I think at this point, every single Harlequin has to have that shield in some way, shape, or form. But given it towards your allies to where they have a shield on, so it's half going to take damage, so you're not going to take as much damage as Diane and King, and you also incorporate both their abilities together, which I think would be kind of cool. In terms of like the second AoE skill they got going on, I mean, at this point they can kind of do anything. In fact, it's just more likely maybe a single target skill. I don't know. If they're gonna have a stance, they kind of have to have an AoE so they can do actual like AoE damage and be pretty good for the team. But you got to assume they're gonna have a single target at least somehow to buff up Lancelot. I guess the final thing is that Ultima, I mean, we kind of already seen it with King, but the Sunflower, it is kind of his classic and pretty much his best move from King. So I wouldn't be surprised if we get like an Omega buff version of this, whether they want to make it kind of canon a little bit, but I think it'd be pretty cool too to incorporate Diane somehow. At least in the movie that we did see, it actually does do crazy rush, or is it rush rock alongside of it to maybe buff it up a little bit, or you can kind of expect something we saw early on, even though it doesn't really happen in the earlier stages of 70 Sins, but drill dance where Diane might dance around King a little bit to buff him up, and you get like a drill dance empowered sunflower from King. It'd be pretty cool. I imagine that would actually probably likely be the ultimate. So yeah, that's the quick rundown of how I think the character could play in terms of like visuals. But generally speaking, if you look at what they did for Elizabeth and Melieli, it's they can kind of just make things up. You know, they don't have to make it too canon-wise, but it'd be pretty cool to base it off the movie, because you got to remember, guys, Gelda is basically from the movie. This skill right here, Dust to Dust, she uses it against... Is it Dahlia? So, like, she kind of already is a movie character. So that might be the same case for this new King Diane. Alright, and then finally we have the confirmed banner. Give or take a few characters. I think, once again, we're kind of going off how last year was in terms of picking characters. But you can always add 1 or 2 characters depending on what you want to do. But this, so far, should be the guaranteed banners. And most importantly, the ones that we actually want were the ones that probably likely got voted. But yeah, of course, you can vote for it right now. Obviously, it's not available on the PC client, but this is what it should look like. And this is actually the first time I'm seeing it. So you have King and Diane. In terms of what color they could be, I guess light type would make sense, but red? I'm going to assume. I'm not too sure. It's a toss-up, right? But yeah, Queen Diane and Harlequin, generous rate up. I don't know why it's so high, but I don't think that's going to be what it actually is. Of course, it's the first time Melieli is going to return, so it's going to be really, really hype. Finally get those 2 characters back. Lancelot in the banner, of course, that's a kind of a given. One of the newer UR characters, the first time he's returning since November. But considering that he's also a fairy, pretty much a given that the new Diane and King are going to work well with him. Subnak isn't here. I don't know why, to be honest. I'm surprised Escanor didn't get on. Not because Escanor's better or worse, but it's just Escanor. People tend to vote for him just because it's Escanor, but I guess she is still a little bit more usable, and you're constantly seeing her pop up on unknown teams. I mean, to be fair, I think she's one of my lower dupe characters, so I'm not going to complain, right? Hell is here, but Hell has obviously been replaced with a new one. This is the old one, so a little unfortunate, but it's what it is. Demon King was recently free. I mean, a lot of the festivals right now, you can see are just like standard characters. I mean, you kind of have, obviously, Mael, who I guess is still sort of relevant. No, he's not. That's the old Mael. I'm thinking of the new one. Nah, you don't really use him. The only good one, low-key here, is obviously Small Merlin, who is obviously an LR, but by this point, most people should have... I'd say the next best thing is, obviously, the standard characters, right? These kind of matter a little bit more, because sometimes these lot are treated more like festivals in terms of how often they return, and that is Nassians. How often is he returned? I think he's returned once, so it's the second time returning, and also on a good banner, so massive W. Esterosa, not seeing too much play right now, but still a new character. Most people probably likely don't have him. Percival is he used too much now? I think he's in and out. I guess obviously Sigurd probably been the best one on the banner because he is a sub-slot for human characters, and you want to get in deep tap because he is a sub-slot character. And then I guess in terms of just grouping the rest of the bottom characters, I guess the next best character you could have voted for that weren't seasonal characters, so you can't complain too much. I guess Chandler and I guess Valenti are probably the newer characters that like people don't have duped out. We'll say I guess having Camilla on the banner is pretty good too, because she is like the better sub-slot for Nanashi, but like no one can use her because no one has her duped out. So the more chance to dupe her out is probably the best thing too. So overall, pretty good banner. We'll wait and see like who gets added or gets X off it. Remember, they've done it in the past where they just, because it is a Diane and King banner, they might just throw every festival Diane and King on the banner. They did that like Melee once, where you couldn't vote for like, I think it was Purgatory Melee Yodas, like a previous Melee banner, and they just threw every Melee in because why not? I mean, I already have Lancelot 6-6. I got very lucky. I 6-6'd him at like 1.4k diamonds. It was stupid, but for me, I guess if anything, we're just gonna be chasing Nassians and Melieli, because at least the ultimate gets buffed up, right? Especially the animation. But yeah, guys, that is going to wrap up today's videos. Everything we know so far about the 6th anniversary. Reeling tomorrow. We're definitely checking it out. Hopefully some other cool stuff in it. I will say there should be a new story chapter as well. They did post this somewhere on the forums where they showcased the iconic panel of the Sins versus the actual Fortnite Apocalypse. So this is kind of like our first official look a little bit of like artwork from Grand Cross themselves, showcasing Tristan and Gawain, which I can't wait for them to come towards the game. And I guess even our first look at Fortnite's Arthur, which it's not the best screenshot, I'm not going to lie. I'm a little bit worried actually, because if you look at Fortnite's Arthur and compare him towards Arthur from like 70 Sins, he looks a lot different. Not only like visually, but maybe because of the animation style, but he looks more built, right? And I will say the reason why I didn't enjoy this Arthur too much is because it just looks like Arthur from 70 Sins but in with a different outfit on, which to be fair is the case because it's Arthur from Still 70 Sins. But I don't know. I'm expecting fun as Arthur when we get his model in game, we see him in story mode. Him to be just a different model, if that makes sense, right? Like more built, looks older. So I hope it's just a really bad screenshot and we get a better look at him later on. But we'll see. Probably likely tomorrow during the live stream, they can probably post a trailer for it. So yeah, looking forward towards that. So guys, thank you for watching the video, and yeah.